400 kilometers. Welcome guys, 3 tips and then some advices about the equipment you might want to use and why. If you've been riding 150k with no problem, then 300 kilometers might be a challenge for you. If you ride up to 200 kilometers, then 400 kilometers will be a challenge. And I'm telling you, the last 30, 40, 50 kilometers will be very hard. And so 3 tips, 2 of those are linked together, but I just couldn't stress those enough. So you need to hit those separately. But number 1, ride slowly, ride very, very slowly. And this is the advice I'm 100% sure that 90% of you won't adhere to during the ride, because it is difficult to ride that slow. What feels like nothing, literally nothing at the beginning of the ride, it will feel pretty hard at the end. What feels like, okay, I am pedaling at the beginning of the ride, it will feel very hard at the end of the ride. I will tell you why in a minute, but just believe me, try to ride very, very slow. A negative split is even not enough. So if you are planning to ride first half of your distance slower and the second half of your distance faster, I would say if you're not the ultra marathon rider, then you know the stuff. But if you don't, you just want to break the record, the negative split doesn't even work here, because at the end, when you even feel, okay, now I can accelerate a little bit, instead of accelerating, you will be just slowing down more slowly. This is how it works. It really does work that way. You think, okay, now I'm gonna push it, but instead of like slowing down from 22 kilometers per hour to 20 kilometers per hour, you will slow down to 21 kilometers per hour, feeling like you are accelerating. This is how it works. So ride very, very slowly. And the hardest moments to think about this tip is when you're riding up the hill, like some really small slope, like 1%, 2%, let's say up to 4%, because for somebody who's been training regularly, you need to be training regularly to do 400 kilometers. 1, 2, 3, 4% slope feels like almost nothing. So you just get off the saddle and you push those, I don't know what, 230, 250 watts, which is way too much for the beginning of your ride. So on the uphills, on the small rolling hills, slow down, use your gearing, sit in the saddle. And if you want to get off the saddle, do it, but only in order to change the position on the bike and relax a little bit, and let your butt to breathe for a minute or 2, and then sit back down on the saddle, and don't try to just ride too fast over those hills. This is very important, and this is the most difficult advice to remember about during such a long ride at the beginning of the ride, like first half of the ride, believe me that. Number 2 and 3 linked together, but number 2, have enough drink and food with you. Of course, you will most likely be buying some stuff along the way, but for example, I was buying for a 20 hours ride, that 417 kilometers was 20 hours riding, like just riding without the brakes. I had my full camelback full of water, and then I bought 2 bottles, 1.5 liters, so 3 liters of water on the way. Remember, this is winter, almost winter, but it was from -7 Celsius up to, I think it was +5 during the day, but for a very short period of time. Most of the time I was riding below 0. So you're not dehydrating that fast, but you are dehydrating anyway. But those 2 bottles, like 3 liters plus full camelback, which is I think 2 liters, 5 liters of water, something like that. If you're stopping at least every 2 hours in order to pee. That means you're not dehydrating too fast. More often is better, but if you're doing that less than every 2 hours, less often than every 2 hours, then it's too little. You're drinking too little. If I was to ride during the summer in hot temperature, I would have to buy much more water. So you need to plan where do you buy your water. Now, as for the food, this is still tip number 2, just have enough. You need to have, I would say, most of the food with you. If it's not a marathon or something, there is not like feeding areas, you are just on your own, have most of it for you, with you, because I wasn't really able to buy too much when riding during the night, right? And since I was also riding through some small villages, sometimes some town I rode maybe through 2-3 towns, 20 hours ride, 3 towns, and then some villages with no shops actually. So it would be difficult to just have enough. It weighs a bit, the food, but just have it with you. And then the food, still tip number 2, the food must be the kind of food your body knows, and you need to mix taste. So do not just buy power gels and think that since you have enough calories it will be great. It will be too sweet, you're gonna start to puke, you're gonna stop breaking down the food, you will break. You need different kind of foods. My main source of nutrition during that ride was my own bread. I will make a full video on how to make this bread, which is just a little bit sweet, but also with salt, and it is just packed with nutritions. It is very tasty. It's, how to say that, it's heavy, it's not dry, it has a lot of like moisture in it. It is lovely food, and that was the main source of my energy. I didn't even eat the whole bread I made myself. So this was great stuff. And this was main thing because my Bertrand food just came today. And this is the food I'm showing you guys. I am getting this food for free from them. I'm not getting paid for showing you this, but I'm getting this for free. And this is the like original bio food. This is not just like some chemical powder, like you need some proteins, you need some sugars, and so this is real food in the powder. Making a dinner for you during the ride takes 2 minutes, which is really time saving, and there's not so many options in the wilderness to stop in the restaurant and eat something. And also when you stop to the restaurant for the restaurant to eat lunch, you might eat too much, you will feel heavy, you will dehydrate having too much food in your stomach, and it will be difficult for you to continue the ride. Very good thing, but if you don't have such thing, take bread. Now, since I already have my powder back in my stores, I would take both. I would take like half of the bread and the Bertrand food. So that's very, very important. Just have enough. In addition to that, I just had some bars, which are far from being a healthy food. I had some proteins bars and some bars with the sugar and different nuts. These are not really healthy food, but this is different from the breads I had and from the dark chocolate I had, and I needed different kind of food. The problem with the bars in the freezing temperature is that it freezes. The bread is just the bread, and it was easy to eat the bread. It was difficult to break the bars. So number 1, ride super slowly. Number 2, have especially enough food and plan how much water you need and where you will be able to get the water from. And finally, number 3, which is linked to the food. If you have the food, but the food is in the bag somewhere and you need to stop to get to the food and then take the food, and then you don't know where to keep the food during the ride. You are eating during the ride, not when stopping. So have the food at hand. This is why I always have my food just on the top tube. So little pockets, little bags there. I wouldn't actually recommend this one because this only has 2 pockets on the sides, but you need the third one here. Many of those bags will have also some little cover for your smartphone. You can keep the smartphone also on it, but additional pocket here would be 3 pockets, which means that you stop less for putting the food here. So I've made sandwiches out of my bread. So let's say 4 sandwiches, 2 sandwiches here, 2 sandwiches there, some bars and the dark chocolate. I was able to ride and eat almost all the time, which means during my 20 hours ride, which was 24 hours journey, I never felt lack of energy, which is amazing. I didn't know I would make it that way, but I did. So you need to have the food at hand, and then when you stop to pee, then you do all the other stuff you would need to do, which means, okay, I'm out of the food, or maybe already 2 sandwiches eaten, then you take those from the bag and put those here, because you want to have those at hand during the ride. Very important. If you don't do it, you're not gonna eat enough, and you can just break down and not be able to continue a ride. Or even if you do continue a ride and you finish the ride, it won't be an amazing experience. I mean, it won't be an enjoyable, 100% enjoyable experience anyway, so make it less pain. This is what I would say. And as for some other equipment stuff, navigation. Google Maps. I don't know about you guys, but in Poland, Google Maps are pretty good for biking. Not for cycling, not for road bike, because Google Maps, when you choose the cycling mode, will very often try to take you off the road and find some shortcut, or just take you off the road and let you just enjoy being a cyclist on the trails. I was having mountain bike for this trip, so Google Maps was great, but my LG G6, which is 3 years old now and used a lot, didn't really like low temperature. So when somebody was calling me, it would switch off. Even though the battery was still there, it was switch off. And then I wanted to use the Myocyclo 215. You've seen me using Myocyclo equipment. I cannot recommend you this thing because I couldn't find Polish letters, because the city I was going to and back from is called Piła, and you spell it P-I-L with little an A, and I couldn't find W on this stuff, so I wasn't able to navigate there. If I knew the zip code, you can put the zip code, but I didn't know the zip code of the city I was going to. So fortunately, my smartphone got back to life and I was able to navigate. I was also using the Brighton Rider 450 computer just to record my whole ride. No power meter, no sensors. It worked for the whole trip. So 20 hours of riding, 24 hours trip. But my screen was always dimmed, so I was saving the energy that way. But you can ride for a whole day and record your ride. This is one I didn't take with me. I just want to mention you that because you've seen me using also Sigma Rocks 12.0 a lot, since it is much slower than Garmin, and it restarts many times when I don't want it. I cannot recommend you this product. I hope Sigma will make it better, because it could be one of the best computers, like all having computers, if not that slow, maybe slow processor, I don't know, but the restarting is really annoying. Since I think this year I always use at least rear bike light during the day, because obviously I've been using that for the night, but during the day. So for the night, I was using my old, 3 years old I think, Mactronic, which is just strong enough for the night. And for the day, I've been using super strong Bontrager Flare CT-R, which also has a light sensor, like the daylight sensor. And when it gets dark, it will also dim a little bit. But this is the one I'm using for the day, because the drivers will see my light from a huge distance. Very good one, safety. And for the front light, I use the Raven PR1600s, which has the 6000 milliamp battery, and it lasted for the whole for my whole journey. It has the option of the long lights, the strong one, like high beam and low beam, and of course different modes. In the most economic mode, 20 hours of light in the freezing temperature, no problem. So I did my trip, and then I also did, I think, at least 2 other training sessions outdoors with this light. So this is something I can recommend. This is usually more expensive than other lights you can buy from China, which will still have pretty strong light and quite good battery. Not as good as this one, but you can get more for each dollar with other brands. I have to tell you that. But if you're looking for some quality and something that will last, 6000 milliamps, and you can also use this one as a charger because you have USB in and out. So that's something good. As for the bags, I recommend all of you guys that you're using the bag for your handlebars with this little thing, because this thing is waterproof. You want to have dry clothing here, so maybe just base layer and the bib shorts and the socks. I had full other outfit for myself, and I felt during the ride, like after maybe 130 kilometers, that I needed to change my bib shorts because they just were not that good for a long ride. And the bib shorts I had, the winter ones from Sportful, very comfortable. So I did like 150 kilometers in mine, and then 267 in the Sportful, very good ones. This is good stuff, and just know where you have the stuff. I just stopped in order to pee, and then I just grabbed what I needed, change it in the forest, no problem. And then the seat post bag. This is the third one I'm testing. The first one was from Rosewheel, which is from GearBest, if I remember correctly. The second one was from Pro, the Shimano one, and this is the Slovakian Kelly's brand. All of those were unstable when you get off the saddle. This is just how it works for those bags, but you can put a lot of stuff there. Just make sure these are not too heavy. But when I stopped in the store to buy this large bottle of water and I filled my CamelBak, I still had something left. It was very easy just to put it right here and have it with me. And when I stopped, I would just sip from the bottle in order to just finish the water from the bottle. Great. So it was just way too much place, like storage, on these 3 bags. But this was still handy for my water bottles, especially. I had also some tools, of course, anything I would need, like spare inner tubes and so, was in here. So this was good. And that's basically it. It's a wonderful thing to do. And no, if you want to ask me if I'm gonna go for 500 kilometers or 1000, I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like I need to hire the number on the computer when I push stop and record and save the ride. That 417 kilometers showed me a lot about long rides, and I think not many things would change if I did 600 kilometers or 800 kilometers. I felt no muscles fatigue during the whole ride. The only thing I felt was the knees, pain in my knees because of the cold, and pain in my butt. I was using the best for me so far, a Pro Logo Dimension saddle, which supports you. I could sit on it, I can go for many hours, so 20 hours was okay, but still there will be some friction. It is thousands of repetitions for your legs there, so it's gonna be painful at the end, but it was great. And these are the main things I wanted to tell you. Remember, ride slow, especially on uphills. Use your lowest gear even, and then have the food with you, and have the food so that you can reach it and safely eat it during the ride. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you guys.